federal judge rules Pennsylvania's coronavirus orders are unconstitutional. You guys are watching Talks with Ryan. Like, share, and subscribe, and let's get into today's video. Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to the channel for another video. Glad to have you guys here with me. A federal judge rules that Pennsylvania coronavirus orders are unconstitutional. We all know this. We don't need a federal judge's decision to know our God-given rights. But on Monday, a federal judge ruled that Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf's coronavirus orders, which shut down the state, closed businesses, and limited gatherings, were unconstitutional. U.S. District Judge William Stickman, a Trump appointee, said in his opinion that the COVID orders from Wolf and from the Pennsylvania Secretary of Health, Rachel Levine, violated and continue to violate the First Amendment right to freedom of assembly and the Due Process and Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. Stickman went on to quote, "The efforts to stop the spread were undertaken with good intentions of addressing a public health emergency. But even in an emergency, the authority of the government is not unfettered," he added. Which brings me to a quote from Daniel Webster. Daniel Webster quoted, "Good intentions will always be pleaded for every assumption of authority. It is hardly too strong to say that the Constitution was made to guard the people against the dangers of good intentions. There are men and women in all ages who mean to govern well, but they mean to govern. They promise to be good masters, but they mean to be your masters." And that's exactly the point I felt like he was trying to get across in his last statement. There is no question that this country has faced and will face emergencies of every sort, he wrote. But the solution to a national crisis can never be permitted to supersede the commitment to individual liberty that stands as a foundation of the American experiment. Now get this. Lindsey Kinsinger, a spokesman for the governor's office, said that the administration was disappointed by the ruling and will file an appeal. They're disappointed that the federal judge ruled against unconstitutional freedom. Why in the world would anyone in a public office ever be disappointed in somebody choosing freedom over basically slavery? All right, we're going to go over the actual court case because there's a few things I want to read to you guys. But first, out of Michigan, 100,000 signatures away from revoking the 1945 law that Governor Whitmer has used to issue her restrictions statewide. 400,000 signatures so far onto a ballot drive to repeal the Michigan governor's emergency. There's only one catch to this bill that's from 1945. It's been re-upped in earlier years since 1945. Therefore, what actually makes legally by their own laws that 1945 bill no longer valid. All right, let's get into the court case. It's the County of Butler in Pennsylvania versus Thomas W. Wolf. That's Governor Thomas Wolf. All right, the first part of this just talks about the aspect of the virus and how it's affected, our lives and the businesses of everybody in this country. But I'm going to start about halfway down. In this country, founded on a tradition of liberty enshrined in our Constitution, governments, governors, and courts have grappled with how to balance legitimate authority of public officials in a health emergency with the constitutional rights of the citizens. In this case, the court is required to examine some of the measures taken by defendants, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf and Pennsylvania Secretary of Health Rachel Levine, to combat the spread of the coronavirus. The measures at issue are 1, the restrictions on gatherings, and 2, the orders closing non-life sustaining businesses, directing Pennsylvanians to stay at home. Now check this out. Governor Tom Wolf's former business keeps operating during the shutdown despite losing a state waiver. So therefore, what's really going on here is Governor Tom Wolf issue strict lockdown orders for everybody else and wants everybody to shut down and their businesses to suffer. But when the bill comes back around and actually affects him personally, you get to see how he really feels and what he really thinks about the situation. I mean, it says he has a former business of cabinets and himself considered that a life-sustaining business. People don't have to have cabinets to live. Therefore, he BS'd it and he pencil whipped it, and he got his own business to be able to stay open. Therefore, he was still collecting money and revenue, while everybody else was at home, locked down under government threat, and could not make any money at all. The now CEO of this Wolf Industries company basically come out and stated that the waiver doesn't mean anything. His name's Mr. Danielson. He said we didn't need a waiver to stay open. It's just precautionary, which means basically that the laws don't apply to him. And I feel like the only reason that he thinks that is because the governor's orders is also the governor's business. Therefore, the rules don't apply. Do as I say, not as I do, basically. Anyway, back to the court case. But here's the part that I wanted you guys to hear. In an emergency, even a vigilant public may let down its guard over its constitutional liberties, only to later find out that the liberties once relinquished, which means once handed down or given away, are hard to recoup. Now, guys, we've seen this time after time after time. There's a national emergency that is a threat to civilization and to the American people. The government come in and they implement new restrictions, new laws, new guidelines, and what basically happens is what Benjamin Franklin said. You give up a little bit of essential liberty for a little bit of promised government security. That means you deserve neither liberty nor security. And that's exactly what this judge basically was insinuating through this case. That, hey, regardless of how dangerous the freedom has to be, peaceful slavery is never going to be the answer. You can't restrict people's freedoms and promise them security and hope that everything's going to pan out. Because when you lose freedom, that in itself is a public emergency for every person in the world, not only the United States.
Counties moving from the red to yellow or yellow to green, we'll see more businesses reopen and more activities resume. But it is important that we continue to act with caution, especially as we reopen.
With low new case numbers and increased testing and contact tracing, all of the region's counties, with the exception of Beaver County, will move next week into phase green.
These things were wrong, and that's exactly what Judge Stickman's order finds.
Well, Christine, the U.S. District Judge says he realizes that the state tried its best in responding to a public health emergency, but he says even a national health crisis can't outweigh a person's individual right to liberty and freedom guaranteed in the Constitution.
What can we do about it? And to which I replied, we can go to federal court and sue them. It declares that the stay-at-home orders were unconstitutional, should never have happened, that the business shutdown orders violate two sections of the United States Constitution, and picking winners and losers shall not happen again in Pennsylvania under these circumstances.
So what does this mean for the businesses currently still restricted by the governor's orders?
I'm going to leave that to each individual business owner.
King says this lawsuit wasn't about any financial damages to businesses, but moving forward, he says it's likely individual business owners will file their own lawsuits.
I think based upon this decision, many private business owners are going to evaluate whether they have a cause of action for actual damages, because there's no dispute. There are 1 million plus small businesses in Pennsylvania. Many of those have been significantly damaged.
Late Monday, the governor's office says it will appeal the federal ruling. Now, the governor's office also points out that those decisions were mirrored by governors nationwide, and those decisions likely saved lives.
All right, right here, I want to step in and say it don't matter if it saved lives or not. The Constitution was voided. It was trampled by a public servant that's supposed to be there to guard and protect that very Constitution of the United States. By saying that, well, we were unconstitutional, but we saved lives, is just like saying, well, we used our battering ram and knocked down every door in the neighborhood. We killed 3 dogs and we ruined all kinds of people's lives, but we found a little baggie of a substance. Now the community is safer. Except this is now in everybody's mind to where they seem like it's a life-saving effort, when really and truly it's nothing more than a mirage to trample on your constitutional rights and your liberties. Now, last thoughts, guys. How does Governor Tom Wolf still have a job? He violated the Constitution on 2 different topics, and now he still has a position and is able to appeal under that position. He deprived the American people of their rights under the color of law. To make a long story short, what is the penalty for violating the Constitution? The offense is punishable by a range of imprisonment up to a life term or the death penalty, depending upon the circumstances of the crime and the resulting injury, if any. Guys, this was a deprivation of rights under the color of law by a public official or public servant. It's happening nationwide, and it goes on every single day that we eat, sleep, and breathe on this planet. Make sure and share this video. Make sure and hit that thumbs up and leave this video a like. And guys, try to share this video as much as you can everywhere that you can possibly share it. Other than that, keep spreading the truth, stick tight to your freedoms, and take care of yourself. And guys, I will see you all in the next video.